Hi, this is Chatboxing. I'm Sean. In this video, I'm going to talk about David Haye, Tony Bellew, and I want to talk a little bit about Joyce as well. We'll start off with the fight from last night. I'm not going to say too much about it because obviously, there's not that much to say that probably hasn't already been said. Going into it, I was expecting David Haye to be a lot better than he was last time. He'd take it much more seriously. He wasn't, as wound up by Bellew. You could see that in the build-up. He did seem to be a bit light. He wasn't that much lighter, but he was a little bit. He didn't. I mean, in the first fight, I described him. I remember saying he's like he fighting like a pisshead, having a punch up outside a kebab shop at 3 in the morning. And to be honest, I don't think I could really put it any better than that. That's exactly what he looked like. Just swinging wild punches, steaming in, just swinging haymakers. And Bellew, obviously used to fighting, light heavyweight, cruiserweight. He's used to smaller people who are a bit quicker. David Haye was very quick in his day, but he's lost that. Lost a lot of that speed and explosiveness. I mean, still has a little bit of it, but nothing like anywhere near like the level that the prime David Haye had. So this fight came out a lot more measured, a lot more sensible. He wasn't worked up. He actually threw quite a few pretty decent jabs. He looked quite quick, and he was kind of stalking Bellew. Good first round for David Haye. Second round is where he looked pretty good. Bellew, I mean, I don't like Bellew. I mean, he's one of the few people I really can't stand in boxing, but I have to give him his credit. He fought a pretty good fight, and he knew when to strike. He basically won in the exchanges. Landed some good punches, and he's just got good timing on David Haye. David Haye, if it was the prime David Haye, those speed and reflexes that he used to have, it'd be a different story. But it wasn't. I mean, he's still sort of quick and kind of explosive to a much less degree. But Tony Bellew was able to time that pretty well, and he's got a good brain. Bellew, he knows when to throw his punches. He knows when to roll with it. He knows when to sort of move in and out of range. Sets himself up nicely with his feet. Did the job. So fair play to Bellew. I have to give him credit. I do think David Haye was actually a bit better this time. He's still obviously, a shell of his former self. So in terms of the heavyweight division, it has no real significance at all. I don't see. Well, he said openly that he's not going to fight Joshua or Wilder. I mean, with good reason. Like both of them would annihilate him. He's not going to he wouldn't like Dylan White. He wouldn't fight Dylan White or Joseph. Maybe he'd fight Joseph Parker. I don't think he'd have any chance of beating Joseph Parker. I think he'd take a bit of a beating if he did. But he might be up for fighting Joseph Parker. Well, the four names that he called out, he said, the three, I suppose. The winner of Usyk Gassiev. I don't give him much chance in that fight. I think both of those two would comfortably beat him. I mean, it'd be fair play to him if he does want to take that fight on. Obviously, being like the ex-WBC Cruiserweight World Champion. I mean, I've underestimated him in the past. So if he does want to take that fight, fair play to him. I don't think he'll win, but it's certainly not like a mismatch. Then who else? Tyson Fury. I mean, Tyson Fury. This is just an example of how deluded Bellew is to some of the stuff that he says. He thinks that he's a harder puncher than Fury. Because Tyson Fury, like when he's fighting someone like Vladimir Klitschko, can use his range, can use his movement. He doesn't need to sort of sit on his. But when he does decide to sit on his punches, I mean, he can hit a lot harder than Tony Bellew. If Tony Bellew believes otherwise, then I think he's pretty deluded. I mean, he's saying like Tony Bellew. I mean, he's probably one of the most honest people there are in boxing. He's openly said he doesn't want to fight. Joshua, obviously he's his friend, but also because he just doesn't see himself having a chance. Same with Wilder. He says Fury, he'd be up for fighting him. Firstly, because he's not like a huge puncher, but also because Fury's coming off like a 2-year layoff, ballooned up in weight. And he was saying if it was the Tyson Fury of, Dusseldorf, before Vladimir Klitschko, then he probably wouldn't want to fight him. But because of his basic opportunism, he'd fight him at this moment. So I don't know whether, I mean, it's debatable, isn't it? Whether you want to respect him for his honesty, or think like you cheeky fucker, like you know what I mean, trying to just sort of like take on people when they're at their weakest moment. I suppose that's up to everyone how they look at that. But at least he's honest about it, I suppose. But yeah, if he fights, I saw Eddie Hearn said in the press conference that Tyson Fury won't want anything to do with Tony Bellew. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I think Eddie Hearn just likes winding people up, to be honest. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing Tyson Fury against Tony Bellew. I give Tony Bellew like zero chance of winning it. If it was literally like his first fight back, could be quite interesting in the sense that we don't know how Tyson Fury is going to look. I've got a feeling that he's still going to look pretty good. And even if he fought Bellew in his first fight back, I'd still definitely be picking him. But I doubt he'll do that. If he fights, obviously, well, we know he's not going to do that. But I doubt he would do that. I'm saying for the main reason of it being something that you could like build up and promote a bit. But if he was to sort of fight him in the next fight, I'd be quite happy seeing that. I think that to be honest with you, I don't think it's a good idea for Bellew. If I was Bellew's team, I'd say to him like, you know, you beat David Haye, who's, you know, how old is David Haye now? He's 37. I mean, I remember David Haye like back in the day. He was the man, like in the 2000, 2008, 2010, around that kind of time. You're talking like you know, about 10 years ago, really. He's about 37, I think. He's had like quite a few injuries. What made David Haye the man back in the day was his reflex, his speed. He covered that head move, bang, just hit you, you know, get you off balance. A bit of a Roy Jones kind of style. He'd like move around, you know what I mean? He'd be very quick on his feet, constantly be like putting you under pressure, just sort of there in front of you, you know, moving his head, moving his upper body, and then bang, he just catch you with counters. And he was lethal back then. He's not that same fighter now as Tony Bellew even acknowledges himself. So someone like Tyson Fury, who's like massive, can fight southpaw, can fight on the inside, can basically beat the shit out of you from range, can jab your head off, can knock you out with one punch, could just basically like walk you down like he did Steve Cunningham, just bash up, like just do him to the body. You know what I mean? Just like you just walk him down, just start hammering him to the body, and just. I mean, I think it would last really as long as Fury wanted it to last. I'd be quite happy seeing it because I quite like the build up, and I'm not really a fan of Bellew, so I'll quite like to see it. But I don't think it's a particularly good fight, to be honest. The Andre Ward fight he mentioned, I'd be much more interested in seeing, and I'd actually give him a pretty good chance in that fight. Now, a lot of people are gonna say, I was arguing with someone about it last night. They're saying, oh, like Andre Ward is just you know, like he's an elite fighter, and you know, you saw what happened when he fought like Adonis Stevenson. And I mean, first of all, that was light heavyweight where Tony Bellew was draining himself and was much worse. Secondly, you know, styles make fights. Andre Ward's nothing like Adonis Stevenson. Now, Andre Ward is clearly a better fighter than Tony Bellew. I think most, if not all, people would accept that. But styles do make fights, and Andre Ward, the thing he's best at is basically roughing people up, getting on the inside, you know, coming. He's physical. You know what I mean? That's why he was. I mean, at light heavyweight, he's only had a few fights, and I mean, he obviously fought against Barrera. Was a decent. That was a pretty decent win. Nothing special, but it was decent. And obviously, that the first Kovalev fight was you know, I think he lost. It's quite controversial. Second one, you know, he hasn't had that many fights at light heavyweight. He's at super middleweight. He was much more dominant, and he really was the man at super middleweight. And yeah, he was quick on his feet, and he had good reflexes, but he wasn't like some kind of, you know what I mean, slick like Floyd Mayweather kind of fighter. He was a sort of physical, rough, tough. Let's see how he beat Carl Froch. He didn't beat Carl Froch like, you know what I mean, on the back foot, like dancing around. No, he got on top of him and basically sort of beat him up, like bullied him for most of the fight. So that is what Andre Ward's best at. And Tony Bellew's good at that. And he's bigger than Andre Ward. And he's got a good IQ. He's very, very tough. He's got a very, very strong will to win. and he's dirty as well. He can be dirty, like Andre Ward. So if Andre Ward starts, his kind of dirty he's not gonna. He's no Kovalev. He's not gonna start whinging about. He'll get in there and give it back to him. So for me, I like that. I like that as an interesting fight. Andre Ward's obviously getting on a bit. He hasn't fought at cruiserweight before. I don't think he's as good as he used to be. He's had injuries. He's been quite inactive. So I think that's a very intriguing fight. Now, I'm not saying right now who I'd pick to win it, but I'd definitely give Bellew a much better chance of beating Andre Ward than I would have beaten Usyk, Gassiev, or Tyson Fury. And that would be a good. I mean, you could have that in the UK. Andre Ward's very popular in the UK. He could sell a load of tickets. People would welcome him over here. A lot of people would like to see him. He'd get a good reception. You could have that at Goodison Park. You get a very good turnout for that. And Andre, it would be a good atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it'd be that hostile. I think he'd get quite well received. It'd be a good thing for him to tick off. Because he hasn't fought abroad, as far as I'm aware, not as a professional. So yeah, I personally would like to see that. Now, whether Andre Ward would be up for doing that, I mean, remains to be seen. They'd have to probably make him quite a good offer because he's obviously going to be going up in weight. I wouldn't particularly want to see it in. Well, I mean, I would want to see it in America, but I think it would be better in the UK, a better event, more interesting. That's how I'd like to see it. So yeah, if it was down to me and I could just pick what I wanted to happen, it would be that. We'll have to see what happens. David Haye, I think David Haye, he's got to retire now, surely. I mean, it's difficult to say. Like, most people assume that he just came back for money, which is probably the safe bet. He's always, like money. But I don't know. Maybe he did think that he could do something. And he does seem. I mean, people say he's a con man. He's a salesman. He may well be, but I don't know. To me, he does seem like he kind of believes that he can somehow turn back the clock. Now, he's not going to be in any tough fight. If he does have another fight now, I mean, who really is he going to fight? I mean, he can't fight another Mark Demori or, the undefeated Cobra or, anyone like that. No one's going to be interested. No one's really going to pick it up. So there's not going to be any money in it. What's the point? And there's no money, there's no glory. So who else is he going to fight? He's not going to fight any of the top people. He's not going to fight people like Dylan White. So really, what is there for David Haye to do? I think really now people are. You can't convince anyone, any sort of British boxing fan, that David Haye is going to be a force in British boxing. I mean, in world boxing again. You know what I mean? So I personally hope that he just, retires now. There's nothing really like that he can do. There's nothing really he can go from here. He can either beat some irrelevant person we've never heard of, or lose again to someone half decent. So yeah, and he went out quite a good way really. I mean, the first Bellew fight, I thought was quite good because obviously the Vladimir Klitschko, he gets a lot of stick for that with a toe, but I think he kind of redeemed himself for that in the Tony Bellew one because he had a really bad injury. Never mentioned it. Didn't say anything about it. Didn't try to blame it. Everyone was looking at it like, that's why he lost. Pretty much everyone except David Haye was saying that. To be honest, he never used that excuse. So I think that was quite good. That's why it annoyed me a little bit. The interviewer after, like mentioning like the toe, it was just a bit of a low blow. There's no real need for it. He's just done He's just shown quite a good heart and fought through it twice with injuries, and basically redeemed himself for the toe. So that was a bit unnecessary for him to just sort of bring that up now. I think we can all just sort of move on from that. So yeah, David Haye. I mean, it's not a bad way to go out. He went out doing his best, but he was clearly past his best. So Joe Joyce, we'll talk about Joe Joyce as well. I like the look of Joe Joyce. The first fight I saw him against, his first fight, was it Ian Lewison? I didn't really like the look. I thought to me he looked weird, like the way he moved, and he just looked very, very awkward. Lewison was obviously quite old, no real ambition, out of shape, but he did like systematically beat him down, and it was a pretty solid performance. I just didn't really like the look of how he did it. I didn't think he looked that impressive to me. But since then, I've quite liked how he's gone about it. he does look a bit robotic and he looks awkward, but at the same time, he moves sort of deceptively well. Like you see him doing like somersaults and like spinning kicks, doing the splits. There aren't many people that size who can do that kind of stuff. So physically, he's quite deceptive. Do you know what I mean? You see him kind of like he's irky jerky, but then he'll sort of glide around occasionally, and he stayed on top of Lenroy Thomas from the start and just battered him really. Now Lenroy Thomas is obviously no world level opponent, but it's his fourth professional fight, so he's Commonwealth champion. He beat Dave Allen. Dave Allen again, not Muhammad Ali, but at the same time, Dave Allen went 12 rounds with Dylan White, 10 rounds I think with Luis Ortiz. So he beat him quite convincingly. Second time obviously is an injury, but he's no mug. Lenroy Thomas. He's a pretty solid like kind of European level heavyweight, and he just absolutely demolished him like in a couple of rounds, battered him. Lovely little left hook to finish as well, and he just stayed on him the whole time. Didn't really give him any room to think even, and just really put a beating on him. So yeah, I'll be interested to see like what Joe Joyce does from here. Derek Chisora, obviously, at this stage doesn't really want to fight him. Can't really blame him to be honest. Derek Chisora, I mean, he's fought pretty much everyone, hasn't he? Fought Tyson Fury twice. He's fought Vitaly Klitschko in Germany, Helenius in Finland when he was undefeated. Fought David Haye. He's fought Dylan White, Pulev in Bulgaria. Do you know what I mean? He's earned his stripes, paid his dues. He probably, if he wants to, I think that Joe Joyce will beat him, quite possibly end his career. So he wants to be well paid for it. So I don't really blame him for not taking that on, especially the way Derek Chisora is and the way like David Haye is. They obviously don't like each other. He didn't really like the way it was done. So I can't see that fight happening, to be honest. So I don't really know who did. He mentioned the winner of Sam Sexton, Hughie Fury, who are fighting next weekend, obviously for the British title. That'll be interesting. I'd like to see that. Him against Hughie Fury. That's a very interesting one. Well, anyway, I've talked about this for long. Let me know in the comment section who you'd like, who you think he could fight. Joe Joyce. And yeah, Bellew as well. What about Bellew? Am I the only one who thinks that he's got a pretty good chance against Andre Ward? Getting Andre Ward over to the UK would be pretty good, pretty decent event. Well, yeah, let me know. Thank you very much for watching.